theory is related to dominant paradigm, and this theory will obviously talk about the same things which we have already discussed about dominant paradigm, that it is going to support the Western model of development. But yes, obviously these theories have certain specific points, specific idea. So try to get those ideas. So under that category, let us discuss about communication and modernization theory. So there are two approaches of modernization theory. First is modernization as economic model, right? So when we talk about economic model, the first group of scholars headed by Daniel Lerner, they used to support the high-level authoritative policies. High-level authoritative policies means that policies should be made at the higher level. It means those people who are in upper level of governance, the people who can understand what is good for this country, what is good for the society, because they can understand that where our society is lacking. So those people should come up with idea, and obviously those ideas will come from Western society, Western scholars, and they will try to promote those ideas in authoritative manner. It means you have to accept this idea. Whether common people may disagree, but your disagreement has no importance, because ultimately you have to accept the idea given by these authority. And that's why Daniel Lerner used to say that yes, all these policies should be supported in authoritative manner, right? And what were these policies? We have already discussed. We will not discuss it in detail. That was industry-based development through science and technology. You put technology and industry-based development will start. Second, capital-intensive production. It means you put capital, you put money, and what will be the way of generating capital? Use the resources at optimum level, promote people to save more money, and use their saving for industrial development. This is how capital intensive production will take place. It means you will need big machines, big factories, technologies. So these kind of industrial based development will take place. Take the example of United States, because the same thing they adopted in United States and other Western countries, and they succeeded. United States, with its huge expenses of land resources, became engaged in researches for the betterment of the rural communities. With the establishment of rural banks, schools, agricultural universities, etc., and dissemination of information was faster. Now, what happened in United States? United States, less population, they have more money, they are technologically advanced. They did not to take technologies from other countries because they used to innovate their own technology. So that's why what they did, they established rural banks, they targeted rural communities, they established schools, agriculture universities, and by using all these means, dissemination of information in those countries, Western countries and United States, were faster. So it worked there. Obviously, it will work there. So modernization, and they felt that the same thing will work in developing nations also. That's why we will find that in our country also, you will find all these steps were taken. Primary schools, rural banks, agriculture universities, right? All these things, big industry, technological input, promotion for savings, all these things were adopted by our government when we got independence, right? So this was the thing, and by doing this, certainly the process of modernization will begin, right? second thought was related to a second group of people. They were Wilbur Schramm and Everett Rogers. These were the people who were involved with the practical problems in developing countries. They tried to figure out that it's okay that this is also a way of development, and obviously all these ideas were successful in developed nations, Western world. But what will be the problem when this idea will be implemented in developing nations? So they tried to find out some practical problems, and these were following. First was agricultural industrial extension issue, right? Because why this was a very practical problem? Because in these developing nations, majority of population were indulged in agricultural activities. Even till now in 2020, in a country like India, which is one of the fastest developing nations among all developing nations, in India even you will find that majority of population is indulged in agricultural work. Think about those countries who are growing with less speed. Think about African nations, think about Latin American nations, right? And try to understand that what kind of practical problems they were facing. Now, your majority of population is working in agricultural sector, and you are trying to, focus on industrial development. So this extension issue was a practical problem. So how to move workforce from agriculture sector to industry sector, right? Even you will find that in civil war which happened in USA, United States of America, there is also an economic explanation of that civil war. Because before civil war, there was a clear-cut differentiation between South America and North America. In North America, there were big factories and there was a huge demand of labor. And in South America, there was an agriculture-based economy where they used to cultivate cotton and where there was a slavery system, because the kind of workforce they used to, it's a very, hard work. So that's why there was a slavery system. They used to bring slaves from African nations and they used to put those slaves into this agricultural field, and from that they used to earn money. So when civil war took place, so people say that it is against slavery. It was against the human rights. That's why this, kind of civil war took place in America. But there are many scholars who believe that this happened only, there was a huge crunch of labor in these North American states. That's why North American states were in huge need of these labors. That's why they this civil war started, and ultimately slavery was banned in America, and those slaves turned into a laborer in factories. This is also a kind of explanation. So in America it happened because yes, there were a system and they abolished that system, and those people came to the factories. But in Indian context, you will find that it is little difficult, and that's why people say that that's why government don't put that much money, and that's why government is not very much interested in reforms in agricultural sector, because government also wants to, all these villages to get empty, and all these people should go to the urban centers and they should work in factories, right? So this is a practical issue, that how to deal with this practical problem. Second was education. People are less educated in developing nations, and because they are less educated, they are less skillful, they are less reasoned. So this is the second problem. And third is community development. So how to develop the community? It's okay that you are putting factory, you are putting technology and economy will rise, but what about the community? So these were certain practical problems, and so they were of the opinion that the rural development and the cultural strategies in developed nations that generated high productivity and high living standards would not work in a third world developing nations, as they lack the basic resources. They believe that it will not work in third world countries because they don't have the basic resources even, right? So this should also be a focus of a whole modernization strategy. It is not only that you put big factories and all these things, but this should also be in your mind, that how to develop the community, how to educate people, how to put emphasis on this extension issue, right? And that's why modernization theory was dominant during 1945 to 1965. The 20 years phase, in this 20 years, this was the only paradigm, and this was a dominant viewpoint at that time in these 20 years. Developed nations soon started extending its technical information, advisory researches, and imparted training to other parts of the world. Obviously, because all these theoretical Rogers, Sham, all these people started supporting that yes, this kind of information should reach to the developing nations, and that's why soon all developed nations started giving developing nations all these advisory researches, training, all this kind of technical information, all these things were started. The main motive was transferring of information and technology and rationalized planning from the elite developed nations to the developing nations, right? So all the ideas should go to the developing nations, and transfer of knowledge should take place. So it started. And now second, modernization theory is social model. We discussed about economic model, that yes, focus was not only on big establishment of big factories, but also focus was on so community development and educating people and all those things. Now modernization theory is social model. In general, the idea of any development paradigm is to deal with social disorder by managerial intervention, right? So in the dominant paradigm also, you will find that all the social disorders, all the social problems, they were tried to deal with managerial interventions. It means if some good manager, some good communicator, and they will come, some good administrator will come, and they will deal with all these social disorder related. Now come to the second point. Second point is societies modernize as a result of greater differentiation in their institution. If you see the Western countries, you will find that they have different kind of institutions. And for a different job, they have different institutions. And it really helped them to become developed. What happens is that if they have to do welfare related thing, if they have to do economic growth related thing, if they have to do immunization kind of thing, if you have to deal with some uh, family related things, so they have at every level they have different institutions, and with the help of these institutions they became developed. These kind of infrastructure is lacking in developing nations, and that's why we find that Western world want us to adopt this institutional arrangement for development. And take the example of India. India is a country which has a family system, and this family system is revered everywhere. Western societies feel that India has a very strong family system and it has certain benefits, but obviously it has certain limitations also. So take this example that how family work in India. But what happens? Family deal with all the things. Family deal with our personal issues. Family deal with our social issues. Family deal with our economic issue, right? Family deals with our political issues. Family decides that you have to vote to which party. Family decides your voting. Family decides your marriages. So I mean, family is in center, and family used to decide everything. This is just an example, and you will find that this kind of institutional arrangement in developing nations is lacking, right? So modernization theory supports that these kind of institutions should be made, these kind of infrastructure should be established in developing nations also. Then all these social issues and social disorder related issues will be tackled, right? Third point is the underdeveloped nations were lacking in diversity of institution and features required to become a modern society, which I have already said. Further, the third world nations were also lacking in their capacity to deal with poverty and other crises. Yes, it's okay that you will make all these institutions, you will put all these big factories, you will put technology, all things, you will also deal with this all social problem. But there are some bigger problems which were not present in Western societies. It is one of these is poverty. Lots of people, and at that time when we got independence, at that time the number of poor peoples were more. Now we have achieved something which we have already discussed in sustainable development goals, but it's okay, even 20 to 30% people are poor in our country, and that also on the basis of $1.25. And when we take another criteria, we find that 60 to 70% people are in poor condition, right? So how to deal with this poverty? So I mean, modernization theory also tried to emphasize that these things should also be dealt properly. And till we deal with these issues, this all modernization theory and economic model will not succeed. So here what we observe is that modernization paradigms appears as an unilinear model of development. Unilinear means, I mean, it means that it is a top-down kind of development model, right? That yes, some ideas coming from top, and you just take those ideas, implement those ideas, and then the society will become developed. And this model did not focus on all these issues which we discussed right now, right? Even now you will find that family system is very much important and very strong in our country. It's okay, it has certain benefits, but obviously it controls our rational thinking, it controls our personal freedom, and it may be, sometimes it may be beneficial, sometimes it may be hampering your overall growth, because you are not able to put your mind independently what you want to do, right? Even the family decides your career, right? So this is what I mean, in developing nations, these were certain problems as a social model. So modernization theory is a social model, we have to deal with all these things, and as an economic model, we have already discussed that how to bring modernization. So in modernization theory, how now see communication, how communication will affect whole this modernization process. So communication was more than just an interplay between source and receiver. In this scenario, communication is not just that information is being taken by source and it will be provided to receiver. This is not only that. It is a kind of complex system, and this system fulfills certain social functions, right? So it is so that's why mass media came as an agent of modernization in third world country, right? As we discussed that in dominant paradigm, what we need managerial intervention, what we need authoritative intervention. So mass media, what mass media will do? Mass media will serve as an agent who will provide all those information and all those decisions taken by authority to the masses. So mass media became an agent of modernization. So here media became very important, and in many mass communication research it was stressed that socio-psychological characteristics of individuals are necessary to transform the society from traditional to modern society. This is what modernization theory emphasize on. Modernization theory says that if you want to make your society modern, you have to change the socio-psychological characteristics of individuals. And this is where all the politics get in. If you start supporting Western idea of living standard, Western way of thinking, rational thinking, Western ideologies, and there are other sets of people who believe that no, we should avoid taking Western idea, we should avoid leading Western lifestyles, right? But this modernization theory focuses on changing the socio-psychological characteristics of individuals. Learner was the person who gave this theory, modernization theory. He was the main person, and he did a study in Middle East. And the name of the study was the passing of traditional societies, modernizing the Middle East. The whole, study name was that how to change the traditional society, and that's why the study name was passing of traditional society and modernizing the Middle East. And this study was a part of large project of the Bureau of Applied Social Research (BASR) at Columbia University in New York City. So this study was taken by New York City, and in this study, Lerner identified a psychological pattern in individuals, right? And which was both required and reinforced by the modern society. Now try to understand this very seriously. In his study, Lerner found that there is a psychological pattern in individuals which is necessary for modern society, and that's why modern society reinforce these characteristics, this pattern. And what is that pattern? The pattern is the mobile personality. The term is mobile personality, right? Who is mobile personality? Mobile personality, this person has high capacity to identify new aspects of his or her environment and internalize new demands made by the society. It means the person who has these characteristics, which characteristics? Characteristics of mobile personality, right? So that person will have high capacity to identify the new aspects of his or her environment and internalize the new. It means that that person will understand the whole society more clearly than others. That person will try to understand the issues of society. That person will be able to understand what society needs, right? And these persons are really necessary for transforming the traditional society into modern society. In other words, the person has high degree of empathy. Empathy means that suppose I am the person and now I can put myself in the shoes of others, in the shoes of farmers, in the shoes of laborers, in the shoes of women, and I will try to internalize the demands made by these groups. What are their needs? What they demand? They might not be able to express their demands because they don't have the characteristics of mobile personality, but because I have that characteristics, so I can have empathy to that group and I can make demands. I can put all those demands before the authority, right? So this kind of person fulfills two important tasks. First, it enables the person to operate efficiently in the modern society, right? If you have mobile personality, obviously you will operate efficiently. You will have better understanding about your environment, about your surrounding. You will have better understanding how to grow from the present situation. you will have better understanding that how the community can rise from the existing level, right? And second characteristic, second role is that it has indispensable skill to come out of the traditional settings. It means these people are warrior kind of people. They can come out with traditional setting. They may challenge the traditional settings. They may start questioning the traditional settings. And if these, so now you can understand that how mobile personality is, how mobile personality is important, and what for the socio-psychological changes in the individuals, which we discussed in one slide, right? So these are two roles played by a person who has a characteristics of mobile personality, right? So this was the first thing. The first thing is that mobile personality, and that mobile personality is needed for the transformation of the traditional society. Second element in learning model was mass media, right? Why mass media is important? Because mass media will expose individuals to new people, new ideas, and new attitudes. Now see the link. Mass media will provide the new idea, new attitude, right? And who will get affected from all those new ideas? Who will be first affected by all these new ideas? Those people, those persons who have the characteristics of mobile personality. And those people will accept those ideas, and they will adopt that idea, and they will start feeling the change. And they will also start promoting that idea among the communities, right? So see the link. What is the link? Economic model, social model, all those models you must keep in mind. In economics, we need big industries and all these things, but at the same time, there are certain problems: poverty, extension issues, education. When we come to so all the issue you put together, and then how it will go forward? It will go forward by the characteristics of mobile personality and with the help of mass media. This is how modernization will take place. Mass media will accelerate the process of modernization, right? And thus mass media were important agent for modernization. Third world people can expand their empathy through mass media. What mass media will do? Mass media will act like a person who have a greater empathy towards the society. Mass media will act like that. Mass media has a characteristics of mobile personality. So that's why in India you will find that earlier whatever is told by media, people used to accept that, fully. They did not even question anything about media. But now things change. Now people have started questioning media also. But at that time, media was considered that yes, what media says, everything is correct. Why? Because this is how media was promoted in developing nations, right? Media will have the concept of modernization, and that concept will come to our society, and media will try to put things in a manner which will eventually change the traditional society into the modern society, and it will promote people to accept the modern idea. Because why? Because media can understand the things more accurately, more correctly than common people, because common people don't have characteristics of mobile personality. Yes, certain people may have. So all media and plus those people who have these characteristics of mobile personality, both will work together to transform the society, right? In his study, Lerner assumed mass media as an independent variable in the development process. His main focus for change was an individual's attitude, value, and aspirations. What we discussed earlier, that media will try to change the individual's attitude, values, aspirations. He says that regular exposure to mass media would transform individual and make the people of less developed countries more like those of West and thereby induct modernization. So, if you are regular exposed to mass media, what will happen? You will become like Western people, and this is what happened in our country. Even movies, our drama, serials, all those medias try to promote the same thing. Obviously, it has certain benefits to our society, but obviously there are certain criticism. Also, Turner said that development is a communication process. So if you have a good communication process, if you have a good communication infrastructure, if you are getting ideas which are being said by Western scholars, and if you try to promote those ideas through that communication process, so obviously society will change. But if society is not changed, then certainly there is some problem in communication process. He stressed need for setting up infrastructure in order to establish modern communication system, and that's why we'll find that after independence, we put a lot of money in setting up communication infrastructure. Doordarshan, All India Radio, right? Site like program, satellite-led television programs, satellite-led communication infrastructure. All we put a lot of money into that, and even earlier, lots of satellite, most of the satellites were related to communication satellites. Now we have certain other satellites also, but even now we will find that majority of satellites are for communication satellites, communication need, right? So that's why we'll find that Western countries also helped developing nations, and you can have several examples in India, and as I'm naming some of them, that even television came to our country by the intervention of United Nations and USA. Then internet came to our country again with the intervention of UN and USA, right? Radio was brought in our country when Britishers were there in 1924, 25. I'm not remembering the exact year. I think it is 1924 when radio started in India, right? So everything came brought in India through Western intervention, and obviously after independence, the kind of infrastructure, even first satellite, our first communication satellite was launched by Western country. It was launched from France, right? So all the satellite technology and all these things were provided by Western countries to us earlier, but now we have our own robust system, robust space research agency. So all these things started there. He considered that modernization was necessary to make literacy widespread, which may lead greater mass media exposure. The exposure may give higher rates of literacy. Both are interrelated, right? So if you will make people literate, they will have greater exposure to mass media, and if they will have greater exposure to mass media, it will further increase the rates of literacy, right? So Lerner again considered that mass media and literacy were related to economic and political participation. If mass media is there, if people are literate, obviously people have greater economic and political participation, and if the people will start participating more, society will change. This is what Lerner postulated. And at the same time, as we discussed earlier, that Lerner and Schramm both were working together on this model. So Schramm gave a term, and he supported the idea of mass media as an agent, and he said that mass media is a magic multiplier. Magic multiplier means that if you are giving an information to a group, it may be for 10 or 20 people, but if you put this message through mass media, it will reach to the millions of people. So what mass media does? Mass media multiply the effect of that message, and that's why he said that mass media is a magic multiplier. Right, Sram, that's what Sram supported this idea. But on other hand, a sociologist like Rogers, he always focused on interpersonal network. He said that interpersonal network and social structure of modernization paradigm is very important, and that's how you'll find the change agents. The concept of change agents were there. Those people who had greater empathy toward the society, they were considered as change agents, and mass media was there to give overall, idea, go overall information to the masses, and as well as to these change agents. And change agents will take this idea from mass media, and they will further promote that idea into the society. So, in his study, Mass Media and National Development, he elaborates and redefines the theories of modernization outlined by Daniel Lerner and Lucien Pai for practical applications to a specific development. This is name. This is the study which we were discussed, that passing of traditional societies. This study was done by Daniel Lerner and Lucien Pai, right? So that's why he later he redefines that, and he put his idea of this mass media as a magic multiplier. So Sam accepted the dominant paradigm of development, which is focused on economic growth, and showed how mass media is contributed to the development of industrialization and aggregate economic growth. Mass media can be a tool to promote industrialization in the society. He argued that it was duty of the advanced countries to provide communication expertise, hardware and software to less developed countries, and stimulating their quest for modernization. So he also said that as mass media is a magic multiplier, so developed nations should provide all these expertise, hardware, software, all those related equipment, so that they can have a communication infrastructure in their countries, and they can become part of modernized society. What will be the function of mass media? It's okay that overall, the infrastructure will be there, and mass media will be promoting the idea of modernization. But the function of mass media includes widening horizons of masses, focusing attention, raising aspirations, creating a climate for a development, and helping change attitude. So all these are functions of mass media, and if you try to analyze and try to see the whole process of media, and media includes everything. Media includes our films, serials, news channels, radio, FM channels, everything, newspapers, magazines, all these are mass media. So certainly you will find that these films and all these serials somehow helped us changing attitude. That's why in our films you will find that a person coming from rural background and wandering here and there in big cities, it is a matter of fun in films. So rural person is a matter of fun in films. And if you are urban, then it is a kind of achievement. So this is a kind of attitude which developed through films, which developed through mass media, right? A person with a greater communication skill. If a person is extrovert, that person is considered more smart than the person who is introvert. So these are kind of attitude we develop, and all these media outlets help this kind of attitudinal change among masses. It is not only that, it also raised our aspirations. Now, what are our aspirations? We will find our aspirations are to settle in a big cities, having a good flat, having a car, going to the restaurant to have dinner or lunch, and watching movies in multiplexes, and all these are the aspirations of our youth. We don't want to settle in a rural area. We don't want to go and settle in villages. These are certain things which, so our aspirations are also changed according to modernization. Right, it is good or bad, I am not going into that. But yes, our government wanted that yes, this our society should develop in the manner what is being said through modernization theory. And if modernization theory was adopted in our country, then what we are now, it is a success, I think, because this is what modernization theory was intended to do, and we behaved accordingly. So it means modernization theory worked in India. It's okay that a large portion of our population did not get any benefit. That is another problem. But those who got benefit out of this communication model and out of this development model or out of this modernization theory, it is a success, in my opinion. Strand considered that mass media are agents of social change, and that's why they could help accomplish the transition to new customs and policies, right? They will make new customs, new policies, and he believed the attention of people must be focused for change, right? Media creates awareness of need, which is not satisfied by present customs and behavior. So now come to this concluding point. The modernization theory represents much more than the economic and social ideologies. And this is what it is. I mean, modernization theory is not only that it is providing you the economic model, social model. It is much more. I mean, it is trying to transform your overall value system. It is trying to transform overall your lifestyle, right? And that's why modernization theory is not only deal with economy and society. Okay, its approaches were intended to restructure the knowledge system and realities of the third world and replace them with conceptions of development like science and technology, technical knowledge, Western capitalist structure, industrial society. So these were some new system, knowledge system realities, which were given to us through this modernization theory. So now the whole knowledge system was restructured, and now our knowledge is based. If your knowledge is not based on science and technical knowledge, if you lack the overall capitalist structure, if you are not an industrial society, then certainly you are backward. Right. So in a way, the third world nations became the target of the institutional networks, strategies, and mechanism of the Western countries. So if you are backward, if you are not an industrial society, if you lack science and technical knowledge, then certainly what will happen? These developed nations, institutions, their strategies, they will govern you. They will target you. They will see their own benefit, right? This is not only that they want a whole world to get developed. There are certain hidden agenda of Western countries. So certainly if they are helping you to become a scientific society, if they are helping you to become industrialized societies, then certainly there must be some hidden agenda of these countries. There must be some profit-oriented strategies of these developed countries. And if it is so, then certainly we will be a target of this third world nations. What happened? I mean, when I say that we became the target of the institutional networks, now think about the World Bank. When in 1991, India was in huge debt, and we had no money to pay our spendings, to pay our imports. What happened? World Bank said that yes, we will provide you help. We will give you money, but there is a precondition. And what was the precondition? They forced us to adopt LPG, liberalization, privatization, and globalization. After that, Indian market was opened for multinational companies. So World Bank is an institution of Western countries. This World Bank, yes, India is part of World Bank, but basically if you will see that World Bank, IMF, all these institutions are made by Western countries, and now they are not investing their money directly to the developing nations. They are investing their money through these institutions, through IMF, through World Bank. I mean, it is money of Western countries, it is money of developed nations, and we have to pay the interest, and we have to repay all those loans taken by World Bank and IMF. So this is how whole thing works. So that's why, I mean, for development, there is a price, and that price is that we have to take loans, and we have to make some structural changes to our existing system. And what we did in 1991, it's okay that it benefited our country. We became a very fast growing economies, but there are certain problems also, and which we have already discussed, that how this new economic policy did not bring uh, development to a larger section of the society. So we discussed all these things. So criticism of this theory is that indicators of economic growth like per capita income and gross national product were preferred over concepts like justice, freedom, equality, and human rights. It means that they thought that, I mean, if per capita income is increasing, if gross national product is increasing, then it is a kind of objective data, right? There is no subjectivity in it. So if these two things are increasing, then certainly society is developing. This is what they, in modernization theory, this is what Lerner and their associates thought. But in doing so, they ignored some basic concepts of human society, and that is justice, freedom, equality, and human rights. So if you have money, but if you have no justice, if you have money, if you have no freedom, no equality, no human rights, what will you do with that money, right? So these things were important, and in modernization theory, it was ignored. That's why you will find that yes, India developed the growth rate of India is phenomenal. The Indian growth rate is always 6 to 7%. After 1991, and even before that, it was 4-5%, and we kept developing. But we kept developing, but what happened that we did not focus on equality. We did not focus that how to. We did not focus on distribution of wealth. We did not focus on agricultural reforms. And that's why you find that majority of population are living in rural India, and these are the issues there: freedom, equality, and human rights. And these are now the big problem. And that's why after 1991, you will find that focus changed, and focus is now on these key issues, right? So this is the first criticism of modernization theory. Second, overestimated faith on science and technology for solving problems. Yes, this was there. They thought that science and technology can solve all the problems. If there is a problem in society, you bring in technology, it will change, right? President Kennedy said once that science can make the tools of development accessible to the masses, right? And this shows that this is an overestimated faith on science and technology. Do you think that problems related to our Indian society, problems related to freedom, problems related to equality, human rights, all these problems can be dealt by science? There are certain, so women empowerment, women are considered secondary citizens. Do you think that this can be dealt by communication and technology? Yes, obviously science and technology brought certain freedom to the women, right? Take the example of washing machine. Washing machine is a tool to empower women. Otherwise, women had to sit and wash clothes for hours. Now they put all those clothes in washing machines, and it is washed by automatically. So washing machine, it is a product of science, and it empowered women. There are certain other things also, which are very personal product to the women. For population control, there are certain things which has been developed by science, and which is a kind of freedom for women. Otherwise, they were involved in rearing child every year, right? So yes, we accept that science and technology has solved problems. Science and technology brought freedom. Science and technology brought equality, justice. But yes, this overestimated faith is not good. There are some issues which cannot be dealt by science and technology, right? Third point is abundance of human labor was ignored, right? In India, in developing nations, you will find that always there was an abundance of human labor. But in modernization theory, the focus was on technological intensive production system. So if you are employing technology, then certainly you will not be able to provide more employment to the human labor. Right. So that's why it was not perfect. This modernization theory was not perfect. I'm not saying it is faulty. Obviously, by adopting this theory, developing nations developed. Right. But at the same time, this is the criticism that if it would have considered abundance of human labor in developing nations, there might be some other positive changes in our society. Right. So these are certain criticism. So this is what this whole modernization communication theory is. So thank you. If you have any question, you can ask now.